Admiral Vexstar stood on the bridge of the Eternal Wrath, his four eyes focused on the small vessel drifting ahead. The ship was pathetic. Its hull showed signs of basic welding, and the energy readings were so weak that his sensors almost missed it entirely. This was what the humans called their exploration vessel. He nearly laughed. "Sir, the alien craft is not responding to our signals," reported his communications officer, her voice carrying the usual tone of superiority that all Zerethi used when dealing with lesser species. Vexstar's claws clicked against the command console. For 3,000 years, the Zerethi Dominion had ruled this sector of space. They had crushed the warrior clans of Rigel, enslaved the mining colonies of the Outer Rim, and absorbed dozens of species into their empire. Each conquest had followed the same pattern. First, they would encounter a new species. Then they would demonstrate their power. Finally, the new species would either submit or be destroyed. The humans would be no different. "What do we know about these creatures?" Vexstar asked his intelligence officer. "Very little, sir. Our scouts report they come from a single world called Earth. They only achieved faster than light travel 50 years ago. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are slow. They have no unified military force and seem to spend most of their time fighting among themselves." Vexstar nodded. It was always the same story. Young species that had barely crawled out of their home systems, thinking they could explore the galaxy without paying proper respect to their betters. The humans had wandered into Zerathi space without permission, without tribute, and without even basic knowledge of who controlled this region. "Have they made any demands?" Vexstar asked. "No, sir. They seem to want to talk. Their messages speak of peaceful contact and cultural exchange." Several officers on the bridge made the Zerathi sound of amusement, a low rumbling that came from deep in their throats. Peaceful contact. Cultural exchange. These humans clearly had no understanding of how the galaxy worked. "Open a channel," Vexstar ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of the human ship. Vexstar was surprised by what he saw. The humans looked weak and small, with soft pink skin and tiny eyes. They had no claws, no armor plating, no obvious weapons. How had such fragile creatures ever managed to leave their home world? A human male stepped forward. He was wearing what appeared to be a simple blue uniform with strange symbols on it. "Greetings," the human said. "I am Captain James Morrison of the exploration vessel Discovery. We come in peace, hoping to establish friendly relations with your people." Vexstar studied the human's face. There was no fear there, which was interesting. Most species showed some sign of terror when they first encountered a Zerathi warship. The Eternal Wrath was 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Yet this human captain seemed almost relaxed. "I am Admiral Vestar of the Zerathi Dominion," he replied, letting his voice carry its full authority. "You have entered our space without permission. This is an act of war." The human captain tilted his head slightly. "We were not aware this region was claimed territory. Our deep space sensors showed no signs of habitation or territorial markers. We would be happy to withdraw if we have caused any offense." "Withdraw?" Vexstar's voice rose. "You think it is that simple? The Dominion does not forgive trespass. Your species will answer for this insult." Something changed in the human's expression. For just a moment, Vexstar thought he saw something cold and calculating flash behind the captain's eyes. But it was gone so quickly that he decided he must have imagined it. "Admiral," the human said carefully, "I think there may be a misunderstanding here. We are explorers, not warriors. Surely we can reach some kind of peaceful agreement." Vexstar had heard enough. He gestured to his weapons officer. "Target their engines. We will take them alive for questioning." "Sir," His tactical officer interrupted. I am reading some unusual energy patterns from their ship. What kind of patterns? Unknown, sir. The readings are very faint, but they seem to be coming from their communication array. Vexstar frowned. Was the human ship trying to call for help? How amusing. Let them send their distress signal. There was no force in this region that could challenge the might of the Dominion. Proceed with the attack, he ordered. The Eternal Wrath's plasma cannons fired, sending streams of superheated energy across space. The human ship's shields flared briefly, then collapsed. The small vessel came apart in a ball of fire and expanding gas. Vexstar watched the destruction with satisfaction. One human ship destroyed. Soon, all human ships would meet the same fate. His fleet would track the vessel's origin point, locate Earth, and begin the conquest of yet another species. Sir, his communications officer reported. We intercepted the human transmission before we destroyed their ship. What did it say? It was not a distress call, sir. It appeared to be some kind of technical data. Detailed scans of our ship's design, weapon signatures, shield frequencies. All of it was being transmitted to somewhere. Somewhere? The signal was directed toward an empty region of space, sir. Our sensors show nothing there. Vexstar dismissed the report with a wave of his claw. Humans and their primitive technology. They probably did not even know where they were sending their signals. 3 hours later, the Dominion Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 100 conquered worlds gathered in the Great Chamber. Their various forms of life united under Zirathi rule. Admiral Vexstar stood before them, delivering his report on the new species they had encountered. The humans possess no significant military capability, he concluded. Their technology is centuries behind our own. They have only one inhabited world and a few small colonies. I recommend immediate conquest and enslavement. The vote was unanimous. The human species would be absorbed into the Dominion. Their world would be stripped of resources. Their population would serve as laborers in the mining worlds and factory systems. It would be quick, efficient, and profitable. As the council session ended, Vexstar returned to his flagship with orders to begin the invasion. The Zirathi war machine would roll forward once again, adding another species to their growing empire. In a few months, the word human would exist only in the Dominion's slave records. He had no way of knowing that in the cold depths of space, something vast and dark had received the Discovery's final transmission. Something that had been waiting for exactly this moment. Something that humanity had spent 2 centuries building in absolute secrecy. The galaxy was about to learn that appearances could be very, very deceiving. 3 months had passed since the Zirathi Dominion began their conquest of human space. Admiral Vexstar stood in his command center, studying the holographic display of their progress. Red markers showed conquered human colonies. Blue markers showed targets still to be taken. Green markers showed Zirathi fleet positions. The conquest should have been finished by now. Report. Vexstar ordered his intelligence chief. Sir, we have successfully taken 14 human colonies. However, our progress has been slower than expected. Explain. The intelligence officer activated a series of combat recordings. The humans are not fighting like other species we have conquered. They do not surrender when faced with superior firepower. They do not retreat when their positions become hopeless. Instead, they seem to fight harder. Vexstar watched the recordings with growing frustration. Human defenders would continue fighting even when their weapons ran out of ammunition. They would detonate their own buildings rather than let them fall into Zirathi hands. Some had even rammed their small ships directly into Zirathi vessels, causing damage far beyond what their size should have allowed. They fight like madmen, muttered his tactical officer. No, Vexstar corrected. They fight like they know something we do not. Captain Zalvin of the cruiser Dark Talon had been thinking the same thing. For weeks, his ship had been part of Battle Group 7, assigned to secure the outer rim of human space. What should have been a simple patrol mission had turned into something much more troubling. Ships were disappearing. It had started small. A supply convoy here, a scout ship there. Easy to explain as equipment failures or navigation errors. But the pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. In the past month, Battle Group 7 had lost 12 vessels. Each one had simply vanished without sending a distress signal. "Captain," his science officer reported, "I am detecting unusual energy readings again." Zalvin moved to the sensor station. For weeks, his crew had been picking up strange signals at the edge of their detection range. Brief flashes of energy that appeared and disappeared too quickly to analyze properly. Same pattern as before? Yes, sir. High energy signatures that do not match any known technology. They appear for less than a second, then vanish completely. Could it be some kind of natural phenomenon? Unlikely, sir. The readings are too consistent, and they only seem to occur in regions where our ships have disappeared. Zalvin stared at the sensor display. Whatever was out there, it was watching them, hunting them, and it was very good at staying hidden. On the human colony of New Geneva, Dr. Sarah Chen sat in her underground laboratory, surrounded by the wreckage of her life's work. The Zerathi had bombed the surface installations 3 days ago. Her research facility was gone. Her staff was scattered. But she was still alive, and that meant there was still hope. The communication device on her desk chimed softly. Sarah looked at the screen and smiled for the first time in months. The message was brief and encrypted, but she understood its meaning perfectly. Package delivered. The Nemesis is awake. Sarah closed her eyes and allowed herself a moment of relief. For 50 years, humanity had been preparing for this day. Not the day they would meet alien life, but the day that alien life would prove to be hostile. Every human colony had secret facilities. Every exploration ship carried hidden transmitters. Every peaceful message sent to alien species contained embedded tactical data. The human race had learned long ago that the universe was not a safe place. Their own history had taught them that when two civilizations met, one usually ended up conquering the other. So humanity had prepared for war while hoping for peace. And now the war had begun. Sarah activated her emergency transmitter and sent a coded message to every hidden human cell in this sector of space. The signal would reach resistance fighters on dozens of worlds, telling them that the waiting was over. The real fight was about to begin. Back on the Dark Talon, Captain Zalvin was beginning to suspect that the humans had been deceiving the Dominion from the very beginning. The energy readings were becoming more frequent. More ships were disappearing, and the humans on the worlds they had conquered were starting to act differently. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving reports of sabotage across multiple human worlds. Power stations are being destroyed. Communication arrays are going offline. Supply depots are exploding. Resistance movements? Possibly, sir. But the coordination is too perfect. These attacks are happening simultaneously across dozens of worlds, despite the fact that we control all official communication channels." Zalvin felt a chill run down his spine. The humans had secret communication networks. They had been planning this resistance from the beginning, which meant they had also been planning other things. "Science officer," he called, "run a full analysis on those energy readings. I want to know what we are dealing with." The science officer worked frantically for several minutes. When he looked up, his face was pale with fear. "Captain, I have analyzed the energy signatures. They are consistent with advanced stealth technology." "Stealth technology? The humans barely have faster-than-light travel." "Sir, these readings suggest cloaking systems far more advanced than anything in our databases." Whatever is generating them would be completely invisible to our sensors. How large would such a vessel need to be? The science officer hesitated. Based on the energy output, sir, it would have to be enormous, possibly larger than our biggest dreadnoughts. The bridge fell silent. Every Zirithi officer understood what this meant. The humans had not been helpless victims. They had been bait in a trap, and the Dominion had walked straight into it. "Get me Admiral Vexstar," Zalvin ordered. The communication took several minutes to connect. When the Admiral's image appeared on screen, he looked tired and frustrated. "Captain, make this quick. I have 3 colony rebellions to deal with." "Sir, I believe the humans have been deceiving us. My ship has detected evidence of advanced human technology. Stealth systems beyond our capabilities." Vexstar's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our intelligence reports clearly show that human technology is primitive. Admiral, our intelligence may have been deliberately fed false information. I request permission to return to base with my findings." "Denied. Your orders are to continue patrol operations until further notice." The transmission ended. Zalvin stared at the blank screen, knowing that his warnings had fallen on deaf ears. The Dominion's pride would not allow them to admit they had been outmaneuvered by a species they considered inferior, but pride would not protect them from what was coming in the depths of space. Something vast and patient continued its hunt. Beung's nemesis had been watching the Zirithi fleet for months, learning their patterns, studying their weaknesses. Its advanced sensors recorded every ship movement, every communication, every tactical decision. Soon, very soon, the hunting would end, and the killing would begin. The Zirithi war machine was beginning to stumble. Admiral Vexstar stared at the casualty reports flowing across his desk, each one telling the same impossible story. Supply convoys destroyed between star systems, patrol ships vanishing without a trace, battle groups finding nothing but debris fields where their sister ships should have been. "Bring me Captain Zalvin," Vexstar ordered. The captain appeared on the main screen, his ship's bridge showing signs of recent battle damage. "Admiral, I must report another loss. The heavy cruiser Iron Fist disappeared 6 hours ago while escorting a supply convoy to the Kepler system. Any distress signals?" "None, sir. But we found the wreckage. The ship was torn apart by weapons that left no energy signatures. Whatever destroyed it used technology we cannot identify." Vexstar felt his claws dig into his command chair. For 4 months, his fleets had been hunting an enemy they could not see. His officers had begun calling it the Phantom, and the name had spread throughout the invasion force. Morale was dropping. Supply lines were failing. And still, the invisible predator continued its work. "What is the status of the human colonies?" "Problematic, sir. The conquered worlds are in open revolt. Human resistance cells are destroying our installations faster than we can rebuild them. And, sir," Zalvin hesitated, "my intelligence officers believe the humans are receiving outside support." "What kind of support?" "Advanced weapons, sir. Communication equipment. Strategic intelligence. The humans are fighting with technology that should be beyond their capabilities." Vexstar ended the transmission and activated his private communication channel to High Command. The face of Supreme Admiral Kethfer appeared on his screen. "Report," the Supreme Admiral demanded. "Sir, the human conquest has encountered unexpected resistance. Our losses are mounting. I request additional fleet support." "Impossible. The Council will not approve additional resources for what should have been a simple operation. You have 300 ships under your command. That is more than enough to conquer one primitive world." "Supreme Admiral, I do not believe the humans are as primitive as our intelligence suggested." "Are you questioning the competence of Dominion intelligence?" Vexstar knew better than to answer that question directly. Sir, I am simply reporting that our enemy appears to possess capabilities we did not expect. Then adapt your tactics accordingly. The Dominion does not retreat from inferior species. The transmission ended, leaving Vexstar alone with his doubts. He activated his ship's tactical display, showing the positions of all Zerethi forces in human space. Red warning markers indicated areas where ships had disappeared. The pattern was clear to anyone willing to see it. Something was systematically destroying his fleet. Captain Zalvin was conducting his own investigation. His ship's science team had been analyzing the debris fields for weeks, looking for clues about their invisible enemy. What they had found was disturbing. "Captain," his chief scientist reported, "we have completed our analysis of the Iron Fist wreckage. The damage patterns are unlike anything in our combat databases. Explain." The ship appears to have been hit by kinetic projectiles moving at tremendous speeds. But the metal composition of the projectiles is unknown to us. And the precision of the strikes suggests targeting systems far more advanced than anything we possess. Could the projectiles have come from human weapons? Impossible, sir. The energy requirements would be enormous. No human ship we have encountered could generate such power. Zalvin studied the holographic display of the wreckage. The Iron Fist had been a massive vessel, heavily armored and armed with the latest Dominion weapons. Yet something had torn through its defenses, like they were made of paper. Science officer, what would be required to generate this level of destruction? A vessel at least 5 times larger than our biggest dreadnought, sir. With weapons technology decades ahead of our own. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Every Zerethi officer knew the history of their species. They had conquered the galaxy through superior technology and ruthless tactics. The idea that another species might possess weapons beyond their understanding was deeply unsettling. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we are receiving a priority transmission from Patrol Group Delta." The message was brief and filled with static. "Under attack. Unknown vessel. Massive energy signatures. Losing shields." Then nothing but silence. Zalvin ordered his ship to the last known position of Patrol Group Delta. What they found there changed everything. 6 Zerethi warships floating dead in space. Their hulls ripped open by weapons that had cut through armor, plating like it was thin metal. Emergency beacons were still broadcasting, but there were no survivors. "Captain," the science officer called out, his voice filled with excitement and fear. "I am detecting massive energy readings. Something is approaching from the outer system." On screen, the main display showed empty space. But the sensors were screaming warnings about energy signatures, unlike anything they had ever recorded. Whatever was out there was huge, powerful, and completely invisible to their optical sensors. "Sir, the energy readings are off our charts. Whatever that thing is, it could destroy our entire battle group." Zalvin made a decision that would save his crew's lives. "All ships, retreat immediately. Maximum speed." As the Zerethi vessels fled, one of their emergency recording devices managed to capture 3 seconds of footage that would change the course of the war. A glitch in the enemy's cloaking system caused part of their ship to become briefly visible. What they saw was impossible. A vessel so large that it blotted out the stars behind it. Its hull was darker than space itself, covered in armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapon ports large enough to hold entire Zerethi fighters. And along its side, written in symbols no Zerethi could read, was a name, Um's Nemesis. The recording reached Admiral Vexstar 12 hours later. He watched it 17 times before finally accepting what his eyes were telling him. The humans had a warship. A massive, advanced, impossible warship that had been hunting his fleets for months. How? He whispered to himself. How could they build something like this? The answer was in humanity's carefully constructed lies. Every peaceful first contact message had contained hidden data about Zerathi technology. Every primitive human exploration ship had been equipped with the most advanced sensors humanity could build. Every act of human weakness had been carefully calculated to make the Dominion underestimate their true capabilities. While the Zerathi had been planning their conquest of Earth, humanity had been building ships designed for one purpose: the complete destruction of any species that threatened their children. Vexstar finally understood the terrible truth. The humans had never been helpless victims. They had been predators, carefully studying their prey before striking. And now the hunt was beginning in earnest. The Phantom was no longer content to pick off isolated ships. It was ready to face the Zerathi fleet in open combat. And based on what Vexstar had seen in that recording, the Dominion was about to discover that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined in the depths of space. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the USS Nemesis, watching the tactical display as Zerathi ships scattered before his vessel. For 50 years, this moment had been planned. Every system on his ship had been designed to hunt and kill alien vessels. Every weapon had been built to penetrate alien defenses. Every member of his crew had been trained to show no mercy to those who would threaten humanity. The time for hiding was over. The real war was about to begin. Admiral Vexstar stood before the emergency session of the Dominion War Council, his pride in ruins and his confidence shattered. The holographic display behind him showed the current state of the human conflict, and the numbers were impossible to ignore. In the past 2 weeks, Zerathi had lost 47 ships. Their supply lines were completely severed. Their occupation forces were trapped on hostile worlds with no way to retreat. Council members, Vexstar began. I must recommend the immediate recall of all forces from human space. The statement caused an uproar among the assembled alien representatives. For 3,000 years, the Dominion had never retreated from a conquest. The very idea was unthinkable. Supreme Admiral Kethfer rose from his seat, his massive form towering over the assembly. Admiral Vexstar, you are suggesting that the mighty Dominion should flee from a species that barely achieved spaceflight 50 years ago. Supreme Admiral, our enemy is not what we believe them to be. The humans possess technology that exceeds our own capabilities. They have been deceiving us from the beginning. Impossible. Our intelligence reports clearly show Vexstar activated the recording from Captain Zalvin's ship. The image of the USS Nemesis appeared on the main display, its massive hull dwarfing the Zerathi vessels around it. The council chamber fell silent as they watched the human warship tear through a battle group like it was made of toys. That vessel, Vexstar continued, has been hunting our fleets for months. It appears and disappears at will. Our weapons cannot penetrate its defenses. Our sensors cannot track its movements when cloaked. Council member Dextel, representative of the warrior clans of Rigel, stepped forward. Even if this ship exists, it is only one vessel. The Dominion commands thousands of warships. One vessel has destroyed 47 of our ships without taking any damage, Vexstar replied. And our intelligence suggests there may be others. The council erupted in heated arguments. Some members called for massive reinforcements. Others demanded proof of additional human ships. A few quietly began calculating how this disaster might affect their own positions within the Dominion. The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from the frontier. Captain Zalvin's face appeared on the main screen, and behind him, the bridge of his ship was in chaos. Council members, I must report a priority alert. We have detected massive energy readings throughout the Zerian system. Multiple contacts, all showing the same signatures as the Phantom vessel. Supreme Admiral Kethfer leaned forward. How many contacts? Sir, I count at least 12 separate ships. All cloaked, all enormous. They are moving toward our core systems. The transmission was cut short by an explosion that rocked Salvin's ship. When the connection was restored, his bridge was dark, except for emergency lighting. "Captain, report your status," Cuthbert demanded. "Sir, we are under attack. The human vessels have decloaked. I can see. Oh, gods of the void. There are dozens of them." The screen went black as the Dark Talon was destroyed. In the silence that followed, every member of the Dominion War Council understood that their empire was facing something unprecedented. The humans had not built one secret warship. They had built an entire fleet of them. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the Eons Nemesis as his ship led the human fleet toward the Zerathi core systems. Around him, the greatest military force humanity had ever assembled moved through space like a pack of hunting wolves. The Nemesis was the flagship, but she was not alone. The battleship Retribution flanked her to starboard, its hull bristling with weapons designed to crack open alien fortifications. The heavy cruiser Vengeance took position to port, its advanced sensors sweeping space for any sign of Zerathi resistance. Behind them came the rest of Battle Group Alpha, 12 vessels that represented 2 centuries of human engineering and preparation. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender offers from 6 Zerathi colonies in this system." "Denied," Webb replied without hesitation. "Broadcast our message on all frequencies." The transmission went out simultaneously to every inhabited world in Zerathi space. Webb's image appeared on screens across hundreds of planets, his cold blue eyes staring directly at the camera. "I am Captain Marcus Webb of the United Nations Earth Service. For months, your empire has attacked human colonies, enslaved human populations, and murdered human civilians. You began this war believing that humanity was weak and defenseless." Webb paused, allowing his words to sink in. Behind him, the bridge of the Nemesis was a testament to human military efficiency. Officers worked at stations that controlled weapons capable of sterilizing entire planets. "You were wrong. Humanity has spent 200 years preparing for this moment. We built these ships in secret facilities at the edge of our solar system. We trained our crews for one purpose: the destruction of any species that would threaten Earth's children." The camera pulled back to show the full scope of the human fleet. Massive vessels whose hulls absorbed light itself, making them appear as holes in space. Weapons arrays that could fire projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Defensive systems that bent space itself to deflect incoming fire. Every peaceful message we sent contained hidden tactical data about your ships and weapons. Every exploration vessel you destroyed was transmitting intelligence back to our fleet. Every act of apparent weakness was carefully calculated to make you underestimate our true capabilities. Webb's expression never changed as he delivered humanity's ultimatum. The Zerathi Dominion has chosen extinction. We are simply honoring your choice. The transmission ended, and the human fleet continued its advance toward the Zerathi capital world. Admiral Vextar watched the broadcast from his flagship, his 4 eyes wide with shock and growing fear. Everything made sense now. The humans had never been helpless victims. They had been apex predators, carefully studying their prey before striking. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the human fleet is approaching our defensive perimeter. Long-range sensors show." "Impossible readings. Show me." The main display lit up with tactical data. The human ships were not just large and advanced. They were moving in perfect formation, their weapons already charging for combat. Worst of all, they were heading directly for the heart of the Dominion. How long until they reached the capital? Vextar asked. "At their current speed, 18 hours, sir." Vextar closed his eyes. 18 hours until the most powerful empire in the galaxy faced ships designed specifically to destroy it. 18 hours until the Dominion learned what it meant to be prey instead of predator. The humans had asked only to be left in peace. They had offered friendship and cultural exchange. They had shown no aggression until they were attacked first. And the Zirathi had chosen war instead. Now they would learn the true meaning of extinction. The Zirathi capital world of Dominus Prime had never known fear. For 3,000 years, it had been the center of an empire that ruled over 100 species. Its orbital defense platforms could destroy fleets. Its planetary shields could withstand any attack. Its population of 12 billion beings had lived their entire lives believing they were untouchable. Admiral Vextar stood in the primary defense command center, watching as the human fleet approached his homeworld. The Ewan's nemesis led the formation, its massive hull cutting through space like a blade. Behind it came dozens of other vessels, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Dominion fleet. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "all defense platforms online. Planetary shields are at maximum power. Fighter squadrons are launching." Vextar nodded, but he felt no confidence. In the past 6 months, human ships had destroyed every Zirathi force they had encountered. The humans fought with cold efficiency, showing no mercy and taking no prisoners. They had not come to conquer the Dominion. They had come to erase it completely. "Open a channel to the human fleet," Vextar ordered. The face of Captain Webb appeared on the main screen. The human's expression was as cold as the void between stars. "Admiral Vextar, I had wondered if we would meet again. Captain, I propose a ceasefire. The Dominion is willing to negotiate terms." "No." The single word cut through Vextar's prepared speech like a knife. "Captain, surely we can reach some form of agreement. The Dominion offers tribute, territorial concessions." "Admiral," Webb interrupted, "your empire had the opportunity for peace. You chose extinction instead. We are simply honoring your choice." The transmission ended. On the tactical display, the human ships began to spread out, surrounding Dominus Prime. Their weapons were charging. Across the galaxy, other species watched the approaching battle with growing horror. The Confederation of Free Worlds had maintained neutrality during the minor human crisis, believing it was beneath their notice. The Rigel clans had actually cheered when the Zirathi began their conquest, hoping it would weaken their ancient enemies. The corporate syndicate had calculated that human enslavement would provide cheap labor for their mining operations. Now they all realized what they were witnessing. This was not a war between equals. This was extermination. Ambassador Thalanara of the Confederation emergency transmitted to every major power in the galaxy. "We must intervene. If the humans destroy the Dominion, we could be next." The response was immediate and unanimous. No help would come for the Zirathi. On Dominus Prime, the first human weapons fired. The Nemesis launched a spread of kinetic projectiles that moved at 30% of light speed. The Zirathi planetary shields flared brilliantly as they tried to absorb the impact energy. They held for exactly 4.7 seconds before collapsing completely. What followed was not a battle. It was systematic destruction. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Each ship assigned specific targets. Defense platforms that had protected Dominus Prime for centuries were torn apart by weapons that seemed to bend physics itself. Orbital shipyards that had built thousands of Zirathi vessels were reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Vextar watched his world's defenses crumble in minutes. Deploy all fighter squadrons. Launch every available ship. All units, engage the human fleet. Thousands of Zirathi fighters and warships rose from the planet's surface. They were met by human defensive systems that tracked every target simultaneously. Point defense lasers moved too quickly for organic eyes to follow, destroying fighters faster than they could be counted. Larger Zirathi vessels simply vanished as human weapons opened holes in their hulls that went completely through the ships. Sir, the tactical officer reported. We have lost contact with all defense platforms. Orbital fleet is down to 30% strength. The humans are beginning bombardment of the surface. Through the command center's windows, Vextar could see the sky burning. Human ships hung in orbit like dark angels in death, their weapons reaching down to touch specific targets with surgical precision. Military bases vanished in balls of superheated plasma. Government buildings were erased by beams that left perfectly circular holes in the ground. The humans were not trying to capture anything. They were methodically destroying every trace of Zerathi civilization. Sir, the communications officer called out, we are receiving reports from across the Empire. Human fleets have appeared in the Rigel system, the Outer Rim territories, and the industrial worlds of Sector 7. They are attacking simultaneously across our entire territory. Vextar felt his legs give out. The humans had not sent one fleet to attack Dominus Prime. They had sent dozens of fleets to attack everywhere at once. This was not a military operation. This was the coordinated extinction of his entire species. Captain Webb watched the destruction of Dominus Prime from his command chair, his expression never changing. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Sir, his weapons officer reported, surface military targets have been eliminated. Shall we proceed with Phase 2? Negative. Broadcast the evacuation notice. The transmission went out on all frequencies, translated into every language spoken on Dominus Prime. This is Captain Webb of the United Nations Earth Service. You have 6 hours to evacuate your planet. Any ship or station that attempts to flee with military personnel or equipment will be destroyed. Civilian transports will be allowed to pass. It was more mercy than the Zerathi had shown to human colonies. Vextar listened to the evacuation broadcast with growing despair. The humans were going to destroy his homeworld, but they were allowing civilians to escape. It was a level of restraint that the Dominion had never shown to its enemies. Admiral, his aide asked quietly, what are your orders? Vextar looked around the command center. His officers were waiting for orders that would never come. His empire was dying, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Evacuate all non-essential personnel, he said finally. Signal the fleet to stand down. Sir? It's over. We attacked a species that was stronger than us, and now we face the consequences. Across Zerathi space, the same scene played out on dozens of worlds. Human fleets appeared without warning, destroyed all military resistance, and then offered evacuation to civilian populations. The message was always the same. The Zerathi Empire was being dissolved, but innocent lives would be spared. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the most powerful empire in known space crumbled in a single day. The humans had revealed weapons technology decades ahead of anything possessed by other species. They had demonstrated tactical coordination that suggested a level of military preparation that staggered the imagination. Most frightening of all, they had shown restraint even in the midst of total war. Ambassador Thelanara sent a desperate message to the human fleet. Captain Webb, this is Ambassador Thelanara of the Confederation. We wish to establish diplomatic contact. The reply came within an hour. Ambassador, humanity has no interest in galactic politics. We asked only to be left in peace. Other species chose to support or ignore our persecution. Make your own choices carefully. As the last Zerathi military base was destroyed and the final evacuation ships departed Dominus Prime, Captain Webb stood on the bridge of the Nemesis and activated the Galactic Broadcast Network. His message would reach every inhabited world in the galaxy. This is Captain Marcus Webb of the United Nations Earth Service. The Zerathi Dominion no longer exists. Their military forces have been destroyed. Their empire has been dissolved. The species that chose extinction has received exactly what they chose. Webb paused, his cold blue eyes staring directly into the camera. Let this serve as a lesson to every species in the galaxy. Humanity asked for nothing but peace. We offered friendship and cooperation. When we were attacked, enslaved, and murdered, we responded with complete destruction. Behind him, the human fleet hung in space around the burning remains of Dominus Prime, dozens of ships that had emerged from the deepest secrets of human space, built in hidden shipyards, crewed by soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Humanity has no desire to rule over other species. We want only to be left alone. But if you choose war with us, remember what happened here. Remember that we do not fight fair. Remember that we do not show mercy to those who threaten our families. Webb's final words echoed across the galaxy. We are not conquerors. We are not explorers. We are the species that other species should never, ever attack. Choose your actions accordingly. The transmission ended. The human fleet began to withdraw from Zerathi space, their mission complete. Behind them, they left the shattered remnants of an empire that had thought itself invincible. The galaxy had learned a new truth. There were apex predators among the stars, and they looked like the weakest species of all. Humanity returned to their quiet corner of space, their terrible secret finally revealed. They had spent 2 centuries preparing for war while hoping for peace. When war came, they had won it so completely that no other species would ever again mistake human restraint for human weakness. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human fear had begun.